All right, welcome everybody. Already in progress. They started without our permission, but I got the main man in the booth, my man Double J, Jeremy Jones.
Thanks, Scott. And seems like this tournament's moving right along. Been talking to a lot of players, of course, out in the vending area. And seems like a lot of great matches tonight. There's been a lot of great matches already.
Yeah, pretty big field here, and you've been spending a lot of time at the Q-Tech booth, which is awesome. Shout out to Brett Garson. It's his birthday today. Q-Tech doing great things. I've spent a little time over there. That wolf table's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's the actual table from the Moscone, and you saw, so there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on that table already, but tough table. This week we're not playing quite as tough as normal. It's 4.5-inch pockets, but you know, I haven't been here in some 20-something years, Scott, to the SBE, and but I kept up with it, obviously. But what I'm getting at is it seems like this year it's been kind of rejuvenated with so many great players attending. I'm not saying the past years weren't, you know, special, but it's, from what everyone says, this year it's been extra special.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. It's been a long time for me too, Double J, probably at least a decade, so it does seem rejuvenated. A lot going on here. I cannot believe how many people are in this building and how many booths are here. It's shocking. A lot of the players themselves have booths, so pretty good stuff. What are your thoughts, Jeremy, on the alternate the break with the little more forgiving pockets? They're not terrible. 4.5-inch pro cuts, and the diamonds play great. Do you like the alternate break format in this field? Yeah,
I mean, it makes more sense if you're going to have either a shorter race or you're going to have a little more forgiving pocket. But, you know, with the weather the way it is and whatnot, I think these tables, by the time we get another round or two, are going to show their teeth a little bit, even at 4.5-inch pockets. But it's, you know, nothing wrong with a hair variety, especially if it calls for it, you know, so. All right, hit the one a little thicker there, Scott. I saw in the last tournament at the European Open, there were a few players, and when I say players, I mean ones that are really sharp, you know, fairly top-ranked players and guys that are always on top of things, that were going to a thicker hit. And I thought at first it was a miss-hit, but then I kept seeing them do it again and again.
It's funny you say that. FSR just played a match here, and I thought it was a miss-hit a few times, but he was going way above the 9 with the cue ball. And I started to think the same thing. I think it was more by design. So obviously these guys might be adjusting per equipment, right, or per weather, or who knows what's really. What's your opinion?
Well, the one that you know, of course, the European Open, I can't put my finger on as much, but here, I think you'll see a few different breaks varieties because it is rack your own. So, not saying that any manipulations going on or anything like that. Would never accuse of that, but just the players, you know, maybe get the rack that they desire a little more often, to which may open up more different ways to hit the break shot.
Yeah, it's a great point, a point that I overlooked, actually, as far as the rack your own. So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, we saw that at the Derby this year from what I heard and saw a little bit of online. I couldn't attend. You were there,
yeah.
And you probably saw as much as any human in the building that week, you and Mark Wilson. So I think you probably saw a variety of breaks as well there.
100%. Yeah, I see going in the drink. A little surprising he caught it thick, Jay, and I guess that's why. But yeah, to your point, 100%, and I overlooked it here. So that's a great talking point. I think there's a big value to that there. And like you said, they're not trying to manipulate the rack, but they're probably getting a rack that they truly like, which is a solid rack.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, these players, when they practice, of course, they're racking their own. So, you know, they're going to toy around with a few things here and there at times, especially with the cut break involved. Yeah, you know, the miss kind of goes with the scratch. The scratch to me wasn't as surprising as the miss on the 2-ball, especially by a decent little clip from KLEDIO. But KLEDIO, you know, he's a guy that carries a lot of energy, you know, so maybe has to settle it down a bit here in the beginning of this match. You're talking about another guy's got energy, the guy at the table, but he's learned to settle it down. And I think he's really learned to not worry about winning the tournament. You know, he wanted so bad when he was younger, Souto, super talented. Now he's just kind of playing the game and letting things kind of fall where they may.
Yeah, do you go into the 9 here? Is there a chance for it, or do you just take no chances and go forward?
Oh, I really like the 9, yeah.
Yeah, touching on Souto, he just won that ranking event in Seattle, right? A big event and a big final versus Woodward, so that's a huge win for him. So obviously, to your point, getting the win out of the mind and just finding himself in that position.
Yeah, and he's kind of done that the last few years, won a ranking event of some sort and run deep in some others. Now he wants more of the major stuff, but super talented and very hard worker. Looks like he's got a low angle to the side rail here. Ooh, he really let it go. I thought he would play for the side, but this is good.
And one apiece now. Jeremy, talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, you can see he did go lefty on that 9, but he made it, I believe. But the Florida Open, yeah, coming soon. And what an event it's going to be. Kind of will refresh us about the Moscone of last year that was off the charts at the Carib Royale right there in Orlando, just miles away from Disney. It's going to be an incredible event in so many ways. Florida deserves it. But always talk about events, and I think this is one that will stick around. You always want to win that first one if you're one of those faces on the screen or any of those 256 players.
KLEDIO was out there in Bosnia. Jeremy and I just covered that for a few days, and he had real glimpses of elite player status, in my opinion. How long do you think it's going to take this young man to get to that point? I feel like he's almost there. Like, I think he could be there within the next year. Maybe I'm pushing it, but what do you think?
No, I totally agree. And, you know, you never know in this sport because it's hard to win. And, you know, as far as majors, we don't have 45 of them yet, or, you know, big events. But you know how NineBall is. I think it's fair to say Mickey Krause, right, with that win, he doesn't have all the shots and experience of a Niels Fan or an Alvin Ocean, but NineBall, if you believe and you have that offensive power, you can certainly win the event. And I think KLEDIO rings true in that chapter, very, very much so.
Yeah, and this is something else you talk about, how big his break is, very reminiscent of the elder brother, KLEDIO Kaci.
Yeah, and what a nice layout he has here in pocketing the 1 and 2. But what I mean is, especially after a big miss in game number 2. I think a lot of things set up for alternate break being okay here.
Yeah, I actually agree. I mean, these guys are at such a level where, you know, that we talk about the pockets, and there's nothing wrong with these pockets, but a 4-inch pocket versus a 4.5-inch pocket at this level when you're in control of the break makes a huge difference. We just don't see a ton of packages on the tour in the major events. So I think it's warranted, and I think it's nice to see because you're going to have a lot of matches that are a little tighter.
Yeah, for sure. I think, you know, we saw a lot of tight matches excuse me, through the years, but the last couple of years with the rule changes, and that'll continue. But what Scott's getting at is, you know, you're going to have some runaways here and there, and that's how it is. Especially if, you know, it gets a little mental on the 4-inch pockets, right, Scott? And you missed a few shots, and now you're down 5-1. You're wondering when you're going to get back on the board. Everything looks very difficult.
Yeah, no doubt. That's the truth.
All right, these tables seem to be playing nice, though, as far as the rail speed and the bed speed.
I'll tell you, one of your favorites, FSR, he looks real good, and I guess you can kind of expect that. I feel like he's gotten better and better over the last 5 or 6 months, or getting back to form, and I know he was your pick at the European Open, and I touch on that quite a bit. But boy, I'd be hard pressed to go outside of him this week as well. He's got to be one of them.
Yeah, I agree. He's been in the booth. He seems very relaxed in that state. Of course, I pay attention to the guys' faces and different things, and he seems like he's heading in the right direction. And you and I talked about it at the PLP. You play all that pool. If you can get the right kind of rest for a few days or a week and get right back out there, I think it's nothing but a plus. We saw Johan Chua leave the PLP, win 2 tournaments right away there in Vietnam, and we saw Eklund, who didn't play his best but got to grind out a lot of pool, come right over here and win in Connecticut. Of course, with FSR, you're talking about in that final against against Eklund. So I think the PLP set up these guys, even though it was grueling, it set them up to play a lot of great pool.
Yeah, all the guys that were kind of up there in the rankings there during the PLP have done some damage, right? So there's something to it. Definitely, I know if you're playing pool for that long, take a couple days off, you've got to be hitting them good.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Sanjin does here this week. He's still undefeated. Had some struggles here and there, but turned some things around during the PLP. Nice etiquette between the players here. Souto calling KLEDIO over to look at this to make sure there's no question about the hit on the 2. Just needs a draw stroke. That's got to go, though. That's got to go. Feel like he probably got more out of that than he expected. I think he was trying to lay up for the cut shot on the 3 in the side. Now, I always got a good feeling of this kick going 1 rail versus 2 when it's out a little bit.
Yeah, looking to catch the kind of just the thinner side, right?
Yeah, and I play it to where I drop the 3 behind the 8. If I don't, you know what I mean? Just kind of lightly. I just feel good about it. Nothing wrong with 2 rails.
Yeah, kind of the same thing there,
right? Exactly.
As long as he's going to the thin side.
All right. Hard to pass up on this bank. He's got to work the cue ball, probably drawing it between the 8 and 5. That's a good view there as far as the angle. I know he's in front of us, but it shows us a lot. Be hard to pass up on this one, Scott. I know it's not easy.
Yeah, I think the 8 helps him a lot, right? But the pink doesn't pass the 9, but it does go to the upper pocket.
I think I would have to just draw the cue ball here at 1 rail between the 8-5 and try and get somewhat close to the 4.
Okay.
And work from there. Yeah, like that. I mean, just draw the ball and see what happens, kind of like, Just too much a favorite to make the bank, not to be aggressive, I think. Hats off to Frank. What a setup he has here.
Yeah, it's really clean, right? Everything down to the mics and headsets, to the camera changes and all the advertising and everything he's done. He's put a ton of work in. Oh boy. I hate to say it because I think I get feedback that we talk about it all the time, but it's a real factor. His backswing was real quick there.
Well, if you notice, he didn't have a pause at the cue ball, and KLEDIO usually has it, not always. But when you don't pause, it kind of goes from that bit of a wind-up, really. I think he was worried about the line on the cue ball, but still, that's an unforced error for sure.
What do you like, JJ?
Not a lot.
Is there any value to just playing the bank and then looking at something on the 5?
Yeah. I mean, you'd like to be able to cue the ball a little better. That way you feel really good about the bank. Can he play the 4 across between the 6-7 and kind of go behind the 8?
Oh, that's not terrible.
That's touchy, but
I don't think that's terrible, actually. That's
kind of bump the 8 up, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You're going to get back to the table regardless, most likely.
Yeah, and you'll probably have him on the cushion with the cue ball. And I hate to leave a long rail bank here on the 4 to where he can just stick the ball.
Yeah, and what Jeremy's talking about is if he's just chipping the 4 down by the 5 somewhere, he's not really going to get protection with the cue ball.
Yeah, it could get laid up behind the 8 and return. Yeah, that's the shot I kind of like there. Just kind of keep it simple. Let's see what your opponent wants to do.
Agreed. I think it's very clever, and it tells us where Souto's mind is.
Yeah. Don't force the snooker if it's not there. Try and make it odd. Especially he's coming off a miss, right? So you don't want to force it and give him a cupcake to come back to the table. Might have to bank at this too. I mean, maybe going to the back of the 6. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's a little more free, right? I guess you don't want to think long, but if you play it long, you can't really... I don't think you can get in too much trouble if you can track into the back of the 6. You've got a backdoor with the brown 7.
Yeah, just don't baby it too much. That way the 4, if it catches the point, it doesn't lay right next to the side, so put a little speed on it. All right, I don't know, besides digging here, playing it in the corner. Cue ball's quite a bit off the rail. But a tough shot.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the bank is on here, but tracking the cue ball all the way around is going to be a real challenge. I don't know that that's the play. He can use the 9, chipping the 4 down behind the 8 maybe. 2 rails up, what do you think?
Yeah, you got 2 rails, or just kind of bleeding at 1 rail up behind the 9. That sits okay also. I like that shot the best.
Bleeding it?
Either way, I'm saying going behind the 9, yeah.
For some reason, when I was playing, I felt like catching the thinner side of the ball made me a little more comfortable versus the bleed, but I think that's more player preference and how they stroke the ball, right?
Yeah, and it's, how comfortable you are moving the object ball one way or another. Some people, like, I don't mind throwing it back towards the end rail, or some prefer to chip it, which, chipping it's probably a little more accurate. Or let's say safe. You're not going to let it get away too often.
He might stay. He looks like he's staying aggressive here.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, a lot of work to get back down.
Hit it beautifully. Right on the numbers.
Wow.
And Scott, that's kind of like the cross side. He's such a big favorite to make it. He feels, let me just swing the ball, and if I don't get shaped, that's okay. I'll play from there. But, good chance I do get shape. So he's stealing one here on his opponent's break. You might say, kind of a break a serve.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of what you got to do, right, Double J? You got to kind of take it from them. They're not going to give it to you, and to your point, I feel like he did know he was a heavy favorite to make the bank. You just got to get the bonus and avoid the 8 and 9, and he did. And there's a look at the cue ball finishing on that bank.
Yeah, I think KLEDIO has a 3-1 lead now. Is that right?
Yeah, and it will catch up.
Yeah, are they using
Digital pull scoring system.
Okay. All right, KLEDIO's broke the balls really well. Cue ball zigzagging again right below the 9. 2 balls coming around. It's going to get a little off angle here, but no complaint. Can't quite draw in a straight line, even though I think probably the draw stroke's the ticket.
Yeah, just a little bit of a sideways angle, but you think he can get out to the center past the pink?
Oh, he can if he goes forward. That's for sure. There is enough angle, but this is definitely a missable ball. But a shot that players get up for. They want to pure this one. Yeah, beautiful. Don't know if it's going to be enough. I thought he needed a hair of right spin.
Agreed. I really did as well. Obviously, it becomes a little bit more missable that way, but to be honest with you, Jeremy, I felt like coming back you really couldn't get in trouble, though. If you don't get on the 3, you can do something defensively.
Yeah, I probably go back with that one. I mean, you know, they're at the table, so we all know as well as everyone watching how quickly things change in pool. Just quarter inch, half inch, 1 inch. It can be immense on your decision, but don't like any, not love with one way or another on the kick shot. Probably come 2 rails between the 9 and 5, probably. That way, if I hit underneath, the 3's coming up, cue ball's kind of coming 1 rail behind the 9-5.
I was just wondering if you could kick 1 rail past the 5 full.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
You might get more out of it, right?
You might make it.
2-railer either. Yeah, you might make it.
There's always value in the make on these kick shots, for sure.
Yeah, and you can get away with it with a backdoor safety.
Now this one, if he comes 2 rails underneath this one, he better hit the numbers or put some good speed. He could maybe not get a cushion. If he hits it kind of full, cue ball at 9, 3 goes into the 9.
Yeah, or even if it goes towards the 8.
Yeah, that's what I say. You better put a little speed on this. Yeah, like right here. If that hits any fuller, he doesn't get a cushion at all.
Agreed. Yeah, and I think I don't know, Jeremy. I don't know if he can get a piece of this or not.
Well, that tells us right now. So here, he kind of pointed behind the 5. I kind of kicked this with a lot of right, trying to bank it to the low rail and let it just come up behind the pink. Cue ball holds right there where the 3's at. You got to aim high and dive down into it with right English.
Yeah, that high ball will hold the cue ball a little bit better. He's going to have to get into it to get the 3 up.
Oh, he could see it.
Well, he absolutely fooled us. I guess he was measuring where the cue ball was going to go.
Maybe he assumed he was snookered before he really looked at it, so he came by and kind of, because he definitely looked at the kick angle to start with. Big bank for Souto here in game number 5.
Yeah, how steep is this bank, Jay?
Well, he's not even entertaining it now. Oh, how do you not like this bank?
Yeah, it actually lays natural to just punch forward.
Yeah, you can stun. You can draw 1 rail back and back over for the 5 pretty easily.
Yeah, it's a big side pocket as well, coming at that angle.
I like your stun. Go towards the 5. Yeah. Very good.
Pretty impressive. He recognizes, a lot of the shots from what I see in his game, whereas I felt like I covered him last year at Frank's room, and he was a little more aggressive. Obviously, seasoning does a lot. He's been playing a lot of pool.
He's got to move this a little bit. Come free of the 8. All right, nice shot. It had more angle than I thought.
Pretty good response. If you guys get a chance, do us a favor, share the stream, digitalpool.net /Super Billiard Expo SBX or WNTTV.com. That is global, worldwide. There's a look at the scores currently. Thorsten Homan 5-1 over Rob Saez. See anything that sticks out to you, JJ?
Well, they're all fairly early. One thing that I saw or didn't see, I heard about yesterday though. John Moore played a right-handed match, first time in 6.5 years.
Really?
Yesterday, yeah.
I wonder what the reasoning. Must
I
be
talked
feeling
to
good.
him, and he just feels like he's been playing not his game at all for a few months, lefty, and he had some health things going on. He had some treatment done. So you might see him back to old school, right-handed. No more southpaw maybe for John Moore. We'll see. It's got to be still so psychological, right? Even if going back righty, and he doesn't even practice for like 6 years or so. He didn't practice at all righty.
It's unbelievable, really, absolutely unbelievable. And you've got to be a little weary of the old injury that could arise if he continues to play with the right hand. But John's a very intelligent guy and obviously one of the most talented.
Yeah, and I always thought about certain players. Michael Coltrane.
Oh yeah,
was one that I thought about. Because I'm a right-handed player that's very left-eye dominant like John, and I think you really got to think about your stance when it comes to that when you're cross-dominant. That way you're not twisting the body too much.
Did you talk to him about that?
Well, I
think there's
touchy.
a lot of value for him, though,
Yeah,
Jeremy.
but it's touchy. The guy's just coming back to playing the first match, 6.5 years. And he won it. He played well. So, but Michael always had a stance that was very twisted across, and we know that what happened with him with the trimmer and the pressure on the neck and all that really ended a beautiful career at like 31 years old. So. 32 maybe.
Yeah, I'll never forget it. It was at the U.S. Open, really, I think, where it really reared its ugly head. A rough time for Michael, but gosh, what a talent he was going to be.
Right, yeah, he finished in 99 there, top 5 on the Camel Tour, so, incredible player, and certainly was going to win major titles.
All right, this is
great dude, too.
Yeah, real good guy. Beat me in junior nationals like a drum. This is that situation where you could chip the 3-up table, but they like using the cover, and I don't blame him. He's got plenty of cue ball to get into, or plenty of 3-ball.
Yeah, and this is all about, just not all of a sudden, let me pick this shot. They practice this stuff. That way you're confident with it. Was that about as good as it gets on execution, by the way? I mean, could have froze the cue ball. That was about it.
Yeah, he's got him covered from each side. He's got to go to the long rail here.
Yeah. I wonder how good, say another 20 or 30 years, and knock on wood, get to see it. Wonder how good the next real big group of players are going to be kicking at the ball. Because I talked about it in the last tournament. I really think the players of years ago, the champions, would have been champions today. I firmly believe that. But when you look at the two ones that are mainly different besides training and stuff like that, but on the table stuff as a whole, the players today kick at the ball incredibly well when it comes to safety and different things.
I just talked about this last match. I literally was saying almost exactly the same thing with FSR when he goes to kick a ball, whether it's 2 rails, whether it's 3 rails, whether it's 1 rail. How sincere he is with the hit on the object ball and the speed of the cue ball. The level is at an all-time high.
Yeah, and Efren Reyes, of course, probably the greatest kicker when you needed to make something happen with a kick, and of course one of the greatest kickers, period. But but when it came to like just kicking safe, I'm not sure that's the guy I pick as my number one guy to try and kick
nowadays.
Safe.
Yeah,
just overall what I've seen in my full career, I would have said 10 years ago, definitely Efren.
No doubt.
And I think I still pick him in a unique situation, like, I need somebody to kick a ball in. Oof. Boy, he's going to be upset about this. Let up on the stroke a little bit.
Yes, he did. No, to that conversation, I like where you're going with that. Now you probably would think there's maybe a handful of guys that you'd pick or more.
100%, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, Albin Ocean may have led a lot of those Euros in that regard. David Al-Kaidi, incredible kicking. So many Asian players, of course, but well, they really fight for those games with those tools going rail first.
Yeah, and I think Al-Kaidi has a 3-cushion background as well, right? Or
Yeah.
at least plays it real well. But they've just continued to learn off of each other. And that's something when I started working with you guys a few years ago, I was just blown away at the level of the kicking that's gone up.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, ironically, how prevalent the jump cue is these days, and they still kick the ball incredibly well. And I think a lot of that is that Euro Tour, to be honest with you, them guys fighting with each other for years on that, you know, it was kind of a smaller tour financially, but what it did for them, for their game, you know, 150, 160 players battling it out 6 or 8 times a year. All right, pay attention here on this one. Just got to move the rock a little bit. All right, to get that 2-game lead again.
PA Pro is number 1.
And a couple of good advertisements there. Check it out, PA Pro Am Pool on YouTube. Frank Miletti doing all the production here. And fortunate to have the equipment. Zach Goldsmith in the background doing a ton of work with Digital Pool, trying to bring all the matches to you. If you go to digitalpool.net/SBX, you can watch any match. Also, WNTTV.com, that's worldwide, and they will be carrying content for years to come with the best players.
Yeah, one local guy, somewhat local. Connecticut's his home. Lucas Fracasso Werner up 4-0 and Tyler Steyer. A lot of big names here this year, right, Scott? I mean,
yeah, it's a stacked field. Ironically, Sam Henderson's mom kind of come up to me yesterday. He was playing low-ho sum, and right before the match, she kind of tricked me, and I love her to death. She said, "Hey, I just want to tell you, Sam's not seated in this event." And I said, "What do you mean he's not seated?" She said, "He's not seated." I said, "Let me go check on something." Well, there's so many guys here that are just above him. You know what I mean? And they're seating the top 32. There's so many guys that are just above me, just got made, which is just outside the cut.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that, you know, unfortunate for Sam, of course, but you got to grind it through. But that just tells you about the tournament and how class of field this is. I mean, I could go, you saw the scores a moment ago. I mean,
yeah, it's deep.
Yeah, it's very deep. All right, he's got a little bitty piece of this, but great view there. Not a lot of future with this limited look at the red 3. So now he's looking at a push out to kind of challenge maybe from the top cushion. Hard to get to that place he's talking about on the push out.
Yeah, where do you go to get to that place? I mean, I don't know. I think the left side pocket's a big pocket to get there.
Yeah, the 7's in the way. He may have to go just a little past the side pocket and kick. Oh, he's looking at a piece of it.
So he's just trying to shave it up. Boy, this is ultra tough.
Yeah, I don't think he'll do this. This is so hard to control. You're hitting such a little portion of the ball, especially if you're trying to draw it at all. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's so thin. How do you even hold the... Okay.
Yeah, this is a better choice. Especially, this is where you're up 4-2, right?
Uh-oh.
It's decent. It's going to give him a little at the bottom, but not much. But this is where alternate break, you can be a little more gamesmanship involved, a little more percentages, a little more play involved because you have a 4-2 lead. You know what I mean?
Well, I've seen it a lot. I've actually touched on that as well. You see a lot of it now, a little bit more testing.
Yeah, because you know you're going to leave it tough or you're going to make it tough, but you're not going to lose 3 or 4 games in a row, a couple games in a row, 2-3 games in a row because of one bad mistake in the alternate break format.
Can he cross this up table and use the 6 and 9? There's the kiss there.
Yeah, it looks like a kiss to me. Oh, he got through it. He got through it. Well, if that wasn't there, I'm surprised that Souto didn't see that shot then. The freezer saw it right away.
I'm allowed once a match.
Yeah.
Then talking about the jump cue, Double J.
Yeah, I mean, the side pocket's right in the way of the natural kick 2 rails behind, but he can manipulate it a little bit. But these guys are so good with the jump cue, Scott. It's really hard to say it's not the right play a lot of times. He's really good with it, by the way.
Yeah, it looks like to me he was actually going to make that ball. Not happy. His standards with the short cue are high. Oh, wow. Jumped up and bit him. Tried to cheat it just a little so he could graze the 5 and get to the pink. Just caught the first point.
Yeah, that's 3 balls. Missed, but 3 balls that I don't really figure him to miss very often. So a 2 ball, I believe it was, early. Now is the 7 just kind of uncomfortable here? Rolling this in?
Yeah, I might have to actually elevate a little, Jay, or dig in just a little.
Can he roll past it for a little more distance, or does that make the 3 missable on the side?
Are you saying it's dangerous if he kind of draws towards the 7 softly?
I don't know if the draw stroke's on offer, really. I mean, this is a little tighter than that side than you think, but rolling at the comfortable speed, is he going behind the 7? This isn't that bad, actually. Great shot.
Yeah, it was actually tighter than I thought as well. It kind of wobbled in, but hit it about as sweet as you could. Now here you go. This is a scenario that Jeremy and I talk about a lot. No need to move the cue ball any more than you already did, so playing the 5 up in the corner, short side. You don't have to draw back an extra 2 feet for the side. Just stay in line. And I think that's a really big difference between these real top players versus the younger guys that are still kind of trying to find their way. And they will. But less cue ball movement keeps them out of trouble, and that's what these elite players have really figured out.
Yeah, just try it out one day, Playing where you never pass position at all on the next ball. Like, you just settle for what kind of the table's giving you, and you'd be amazed how good you could play. All right, got a little odd. Good thing the 9's not across the table. Then he would have to play the 8 with a little angle to move across, and that's where it gets tricky, because it looks like he's going to play from underneath the black 8.
Yeah, Jeremy, so this is 2 instances where he went short side, going to the corner, and I liked both of them.
All right, 4-3's our score. Pretty much on serve with Souto to break in game number 8.
Souto to break, trailing by 1. Something I noticed, Jeremy, he actually gets in him pretty hard too for his stature, and I don't think size has anything to do with it. You talk about its cue speed all the time, but it gets into him a little bit more than a lot of the guys.
Yeah, when this first came out, he actually, I think, got a couple warnings for a little softer break. Of course, players were trying to figure it out, so, and they're trying to win. I think it's easy to not intentionally soft break at times, especially when you're cut breaking because you're worried about the cue ball flying around and whatnot. But no, he's gotten to where he usually breaks the balls really well. He's just really got a lot of talent, this kid, like his opponent is. Two of the talented young guys on tour, two of many.
Yeah, and Souto actually a pretty good personality as well. KLEDIO is still finding his way. He's just such a mild-mannered, quiet, polite young man, very similar to his brother, who is extremely classy, that we all love.
Yeah, this is difficult here. Don't see anything I'm in love with. Don't like rolling it, trying to kill the ball either behind the 8 or the 9. I think he passes this. Gotta pass it. Again, you're up 4-3 on your opponent's break. Any kind of question mark, you got to give it up.
Couldn't agree more. That 8 is a small ball to get behind with this distance.
Yeah, I'm actually interested to see what he has in mind. Just bring the 1 pie. The 9 is all I could figure. Okay. I mean, he hit it about as well as he could and still, was never really ever going to get a snooker, that's for sure.
No, but I thought it was pretty great to even get the escape from the cue ball there. Like, he did hit it as well as he could. Push out was real tough.
Yeah, it should be. You always want to have a chance to get it back if you can. See, banking this and going behind the pink. Oh, he hit it too full. It's an unforced error for sure.
Yeah, and you were talking about Sandrin Pelovanovic, who played a lot of pool in Bosnia lately. He's leading 4-3 versus BJ Ussery. Federgorst up 4-1 versus Sean Wilkie.
I think this is the first tournament I've seen BJ at in 2025.
Yeah, maybe one of the last tournaments he played. The guy right next to me defeated him. U.S. Open.
Yeah. Lucky.
Better to be lucky than good, Jeremy.
That's right. Ounce of luck is worth a pound of skill. Sean Wilkie got on the board, huh? Against Federgorst. John Moore, we talked about the right-hander playing a guy that's been super hot lately, Georgi Georgiev. John's up 6-1. Sullivan Clark up 3-1 on Eagle Eye. Jason Shaw, FSR, out of the gates early, up 5-1 over Brandon Schuff. Ralph Souquet, Timeless. He's up 3-2 on Mark Biesterbosch. Lucas Fracassa Werner up 5-0 on Tyler Starr. And this is alternate break, hard to do. A big feature match also. Jesus Atencio, awesome to see him back at it, and I really think if he just keeps with it,
yeah,
he's going to shine bright out here on this NineBall tour. And he's down 5-4 to Mickey Kraus. Pius Labutis up 5-1 on Loho Sum. Vitaly Patsura, we all know how great he is, up 4-1 on Niels Fan, another Hall of Famer. And Shane Wolford, that rounds it up, playing Oscar Dominguez, is up 5-2 at the moment.
Yeah, you mentioned Jesus Atencio. He's actually one of my favorite players to watch, and we miss him a lot of times when he's not at some of the events. I know he's a family man, but boy, I'd really like to see him out here more, Jeremy.
I think he's back to stay. I think, just mentioned a little something to him saying, hi, hey, you're going to play more out there in Vegas. 30 days ago or so, and he said, yeah, and I really think you're going to see a lot of them.
Yeah, it's good news.
Hey guys, check out integritycues.com, offering high-end cues, production cues, pre-owned cues, cases, and accessories. integritycues.com.
You talk about this, Jeremy. We talk about it a lot. He's not really side rail to side rail, but it's so odd how often we talk about how close the two will finish to the cue ball in this parallel position. Does he bank at this? Is there any value? The cue ball tracking away, so it looks like he's going to chip it.
Does he have to check this to get behind the 9? Oh, no, well, no, he's not going to be happy there. He's left a cross-side bank, I think.
Side view cameras. Yeah, I think he does have the cross side, like you said, Double J.
Like, he's thinking about the safety. I thought the bank went, but maybe the 8's a hair in the way. I thought he could throw it, but
Definitely doesn't look like it.
no. He's going off the left English, so I was going to say, watch out what you're doing here, but pretty good control.
Most likely see the jump cue here. I think that's the time that's being taken. Might be putting it together, or is he at the top of the table already? There he goes. Banking this two towards the top right, Double J.
Yeah, I think so.
Somebody just won a big match.
I'm wondering if it's a local Matt Crawl, maybe.
Yeah, versus Sean Dobson.
Yeah,
9 apiece there.
Matt, great guy. A good call there, Scott. Very well struck. He's going to give up a shot, but of course there's some distance, and he's got to work the cue ball. Boy, this 4 is a big ball, but it's real easy sometimes now. I don't know how the tables are playing totally, but easy to overdraw this sometimes, really trying to get into it.
What about just punching out?
I like that a lot. He had to hit more angle than we thought.
A lot more angle than we thought.
He moved that easy. Of course, he's got a great stroke and does move the cue ball with pretty much effortless power.
Can he use the 5 here, or is he going towards the side, kind of?
It's a close. I mean, I think you got to do that anyways, but there's definitely a little jeopardy with the corner there on the side pocket. Just getting by there, held it nicely.
Yeah, I don't think that was as easy as it looked, right? He might have just laid off that past point right there to flatten the cue ball out a little bit. Got it done.
Yeah, and if he's Spanish, it just feels like he's going to be good tactically, right?
Yeah, of course.
I wonder, I think Spain's probably like a lot of Latin countries that we know, of course. Central America and South America, they play a lot of different games that have strategy involved. You know, different types of 8-ball and 1-ball and, you know, bear ball, whatever you want to call it, to where, you know, you got to learn some things, not just knocking balls in.
Yeah.
I think Spain may have the same.
Yeah, kind of equivalent, Jeremy, right? To like, well, let's just call it one pocket and bang pool in the States. A little different games to where these elite players like Skyler and SVB and all these guys can figure out a little bit more.
Well, yeah, #1 player in the world. He's played a ton of banks in the last however long, 7 years of his career. And I would say that he would say it's helped his game overall. All right, I think this leaked. It's close. I think so, though.
Yeah, kind of a big game right here. You just get the feeling KLEDIO's been leading by 2, leading by 1. I think he was leading by 3 at one point, maybe 4-1. Was it 4-1 or 4-2? Neither here nor there. You just get the feeling that Souto not going to go away, so he's got to close the deal here. This rack settled down. Something I have noticed, Jeremy, and Pat's talked about it with AccuStats. You know, they say that the alternate break over time, over the last however many years they've been doing the stats, and I think I've mentioned this to you before. They say that the alternate break comeback stats are the same as winter break, almost identical.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, of course, when we started doing a lot of alternate break stuff, I think that was around the millennium, around 1999, 2000, later 2000s, some tournaments started to come in and believe in the alternate break. And some guys, they were finished when they got down 4-1 or 5-1 in a race to 9. Mentally, they just didn't think they could do it. It was impossible. Where I always looked at it like, you know, 6 games, if you lost 5 out of the first 6 playing alternate break, you could certainly win 5 out of the next 6. And it's pretty amazing that the stats are that close or almost identical, though, with the 2 different formats, as far as comebacks you're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly, as far as comebacks. I haven't seen the stats, but Pat, we know Pat, great guy, so just interesting. I think more of that's probably just momentum shifts versus what's happening within the play.
Yeah, and I tell you, when you start to get a comeback, you can still feel pressure even though you get to break the balls every other game. You know, when a guy's, you're up whatever, 7-1 or 2, and now 7-5, and just because you're at the table and you get that opportunity, don't think it's easy.
And speaking of pressure, look at the long 6 he just knocked down to maintain his lead in this match. Got to believe the 8 passes without any problems.
Yeah, and you know, his brother is one of the best tactically, and it's just so deceiving just because he's so good in other areas and the big power and all that. But I'll tell you how talented KLEDIO is. That Souto, he showed us how good he is tactically, and I would say for sure he's better tactically than KLEDIO. But I don't know if Souto's a favorite in this match just because KLEDIO's so good offensively.
Yeah, and can you just imagine how good he's going to be when that tactical side starts to brushing up?
Yeah, and he's got one of the best right there in the family.
Yeah.
To pick up a few things. All right, 5-4. He's kept the lead pretty much the entire match. It tied up a couple times, but hasn't trailed.
Why is it moving?
Yeah, and he's catching it too thick. He caught it super thick earlier and made the one, but this one he pushed the one through and it hit short.
I don't think that's a bad decision, do you, Jeremy, with all the cover down low?
No, not at all. Top English. Get the 1 by the 6 off the side cushion.
Yeah, that long view is going. We can't even go to the long view.
Did he fluke it? No, he didn't. He's left a shot. Certainly not easy, but one that KLEDIO should attack on.
No, not easy at all. Can he even avoid the 6 going forward, Jay?
No, not at all. He's got to gamble a little bit here, and I think it's all about how you hit the pocket. You know, if you overcut it, you could have 6-ball problems. If you know, and still make it. I'm saying if you overcut it to the left side. I think if you hit the center, you go one rail. Oh, he went right into it. That's actually more comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't know what's happening if you're forced to come behind it.
Boy, very confident stroke on the one there. Also, got to check this a hair. Come up for the 3.
Just seems like when he needs to, he can really step it up.
All right, didn't want to like threaten getting that narrow angle, so decided to draw back, use a little different angle to work the cue ball back up table. Scott, have y'all got to cover his brother any this week? Is he doing all right in the tournament? I haven't got to keep up too much so far.
You know what? We haven't had him. I haven't got to cover him yet. Not to say that he hasn't been on the TV table. I'm starting in the later rounds during the day, but no, I have not, Double J. I'd like to. You've got to expect, you touched on it, what he did at EL Billiards. He's really must be feeling good.
Yeah, the 2 guys in the finals and one of the guys in the semis I pick as the favorites here, that being Eklund, FSR, and Jason Shaw. And certainly don't count out that other semifinalist, Brandon Schuff, but you know, these guys are probably have Brandon a little bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah, simply because these guys are playing every day. I think Brandon, you and I touched on that in commentary last week. I think Brandon's playing some of the best pool of his career if he can just stay out there.
Yeah, says he's going to try and play more. Here's a 6-4 lead, 2 games again going to 10.
Yeah, thank you to Frank. Let us know he won his first match 10-2, and then his second match 10-5. He's about to go up against Edward Kwanigan. Speaking of Eklund Kaci, I'll tell you what, speaking of Eklund Kaci, I don't know too many people that break the balls almost as hard as he does, but this young man here at the table is definitely one of them.
Yeah, and he gets really effortless kind of action with the cue, and he gets great spreads. Boy, this shot here goes a long ways to open up what looks like a very playable rack. Yeah, sweet stroke. Very fluid. You know, he changed his cueing as well, because, you know, kind of brought up a snooker player as a snooker player or going to be a snooker champion, and he was doing really well as a junior player. I think he won the Albanian Junior Championships a couple times on the snooker end, but really prefers pool, and so he changed his technique a little bit. And how smart he is, realizing that, you know, that the technique needs to be changed from snooker to pool.
Yeah, I was following him when he was into snooker a little bit more. Do you have any idea when that time frame was where he started to change the cueing? A couple of years ago? somewhere around there, I think.
Yeah, that's close, yeah, because I talked to him last year about it in Saudi at the World Championships, and I said, yeah, I talked to him, man, his stroke changed a little bit. He's like, yeah. He said, I realized that the two games are different, and you need a little more of a fluid motion to work the ball because we use so much side spin and whatnot. So he said that was about a year before last year's World Championship. So you're about right on, year and a half maybe, Scott, something like that.
I just remember hoping that he started to play American pool because I figured he had to be talented if he was part of the family.
Yeah, there's at least 3 brothers. Eklund, he'll be up on the next round, playing Edward Koi Anjian of Indonesia.
Really stepping on the pedal now is the young KLEDIO Kaci, leading 7-4. And we're going to chat about this real quick. August 18th through the 23rd, Harrah's Resort, Atlantic City. WNT pre-sale. 14th of April. The general sale, 16th of April. Jeremy, what do you know about the U.S. Open? Have you ever played in this tournament?
Yeah. Funny, first time I went, I think it was 1995, if I remember correctly, and I just went to go watch, and some spots came open, so I entered, and I was like, I was hooked then.
Yeah.
I was donezo's. I was going to play it as many times as I can. Unfortunately, I missed a few of them here and there, but what an event. And, you know, it may be a little early to ask, Scott, but you've seen a lot of World NineBall Tour the last year and a half, and you've seen some in 2025. Who you like? Who you like to win it this year?
Boy, I'll tell you what, if Eklund keeps it up, I think he's got an opportunity. I would love to see, you know, a younger guy, Moritz Neuhausen, Pius Labutis, any of those guys, you know, some of the younger, fresher guys, you know, obviously, nobody more I'd like to see win it. I think we know that, Jeremy, than Shane Van Boening. But Shane looking for number 6. Fedor Gorst put it on him in the finals, and it was an incredible final. We got to cover that. And I think you've talked about that, and I've been talking about it the last day and a half. I think it's the toughest tournament. Well, there is no doubt it's the toughest tournament in the States to win, but with 256 players, I don't care who you are, most of those players are great players. I think it's one of the toughest tournaments, if not the toughest to win.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good play here. Even though he didn't make it, took care of the cue ball. He's going to give up something to Jonas, and we'll see if he can come with it. I like him digging on this and trying to stay offensive, but I agree. I've always thought it was the toughest. Now the worlds have changed a little bit with Matchroom getting a hold of it. The pockets have become tight again. The conditions are great. The field is really good again. But I still think the U.S. Open's the cream of the crop for me.
Yeah.
But interesting thing, you know, SVB, of course, getting close last year to that 6th jacket. But if you really kind of look at it, that's how difficult it is. There's been no repeat winners in a while, right?
That's and I think maybe it was Carl and I thought you and I were touching on that. I feel like, of course, he's a favorite to get to the finals, but I feel like, to your point right there, it's just that much tougher now. No repeat winners in the last, I don't know how many years, but I think it's been 5 or 6 at least.
Well, I think the last guy to win it more than once, it was 2016 in SVB. I think he's I'd have to look it up for sure, but who do we have in the last few years? We had Fedor Gorst, Koping Chung, Carlo Beato before that. So that takes us. Yeah, we got Shane. Yeah, Shane's definitely won it multiple times, and I think he's won it back-to-back once, right? Is that right? 3 times. Yeah. Okay. He's won 3 in a row.
2012 to 2014.
Yeah. But what I'm getting at is, you know,
the last time it's been repeated. So it's obviously,
or just a guy not even repeated, a guy that's won it twice, is what I'm getting at. Just thinking that since Shane won in 2016, we've had all new winners.
No, probably.
I'd have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure we've had all new winners. And one of those was also FSR, who won that U.S. Open a couple years ago. 2019 was Josh Filler. 2018 was, I know Frank's on it over here, but I'm usually pretty good at remembering this
You
stuff.
are good. What was it? 22? Then Koping Chung won it.
Koping Chung won in 22. FSR won in 23. 24, of course.
Yeah, and Koping Chung is the
Okay,
one that
we're
made
hitting
all
it.
99 balls.
Okay, so 2016 SVB. So here we go. Since 2017, Jason Shaw, first-time winner. Josh Filler, first-time winner. Carlo Beato, first-time winner in 21. Of course, 2020 was pandemic, so we missed it. 2022 FSR, Koping Chung, and then Federer Gorst. So, you know, if you just X out Shane, there's been a lot of guys that win it twice. And as great as they are today and so many in form all the time, you would think maybe there'd be one, but it's just that tough to win.
Well, it is that tough to win. And that's why I was really excited. I think Gorst is going to have many more years of big titles. I was really excited, and I think we all were, to see Shane get a crack at it. And I think that's all you can ask for, is getting a crack at your 6th title. How many more opportunities will he have at that going forward? We'll have to find out.
Yeah, I think he's still one of the guys, but so Scott, with not throwing you off track there, did you give us an answer on who you like or not?
Not
I
really.
missed it. Okay.
I spoke about 4 or 5. What I did say was I'd like to see a younger, maybe a Moritz Newhausen or a Pius Labutis, or, I think that these guys are about to break through. I'm telling you right now, I think the man at the table could win the U.S. Open. I just would like to see a younger player break through. Who do I think is going to win the U.S. Open this year? Listen, it's hard for me to bet against Federer Gorst. When he wants to win, it seems like that's what he does.
Yeah, I think, when we talk about big breaks and whatnot, a guy that gets more shots after the break than anyone, if you talk about it that way, is maybe the guy you just mentioned in Federer Gorst. And, last year was an amazing year just because he won a lot of titles a lot of different ways, making different paths, different ways. The World Championships was drama from match number 1 for him. Then I wouldn't say cruised at the U.S. Open by any means, but seemed to be a little easier sledding. But yeah, he's going to be tough.
Yeah, what he did at the World Championships is still something that if you were there to see it, you'd understand. But it was really kind of wild. But this young man here, I don't even remember the last time we've seen Souto, and it's been an alternate break format, but it just seems like all of a sudden they started playing winter break.
Yeah, good point. And we'll leave the U.S. Open alone. We'll see what happens there. But that World Championship, I think, with that big purse, the first year of it, there were a lot of tight arms. I was tight in the booth, to be fair. I mean, I was sweating it.
Yeah.
Overall, and I think the guys will loosen up as a whole and understand, again, it's life-changing in a lot of ways, but it's still 9-ball pool. All right. Jonas has been here before, but I can't afford anything more as far as a mistake. And again, he's got to fade a bunch of breaks by his opponent.
Yeah, and we kind of touched on this right at the beginning of the match. The young Kaci, just so offensive and so accurate, can do a lot of damage real quick, even in the alternate break format. Tyler Steyer trailing 7 games to 2 to Lucas Fracasso Varner. I guess you could say this is his hometown, or at least local.
Yeah, Connecticut. but, you know, spends a lot of time up and down this East Coast. He's a very well-liked young man and another great talent. First saw him at...
And there's the replay right there.
Yeah, first saw him at the International when he won that junior event. They had, I think he was 18, so maybe that was around 2019, maybe. Something like that. Played awfully well.
Yeah, kind of nothing to lose at this point, you know, in the alternate break format. This is a situation where you don't want to find yourself, but funny things can happen. This is definitely a layout you want to have. The 6 to the 7, really where it's at.
Yeah, the alternate break, you know, usually when it's in this situation, it's rare when you haven't done much wrong to get down 9 to 4. It's usually a few mistakes or just everything was working totally against you. It's not usually too much in between. We'll see if he can keep the arm going, whether it's to try and make this comeback or his next match, which may be on the one-loss side, which I doubt will be tonight, probably tomorrow for Jonas. This is, what, the third round of the winner's side, I believe?
That's correct.
I think the fourth round of the winner's side.
Yeah, I'm looking now. It's the 4th. This is currently the 4th.
Oh, it is the fourth.
Yes.
Okay. So the next one would get you into the stage 2, the final. Is it 16? I believe they're doing.
That's correct. How steep is this?
Little bit. Just got to pay attention. He's good with spin though. Oh wow! Didn't ever dream he'd have to go 4 rails on that ball, and not knocking it at all.
Yeah, maybe just didn't feel comfortable swerving it a little bit.
Yeah, if you're a little on the fence, if it wants to move, go ahead and let it move.
I don't remember him doing much wrong, really. I'm trying to think about what it is. I'm sure you're going to pull something out of your hat, but I don't really remember it.
No, I mean, he missed a kick shot there after the break that you'd figure he wanted to get the stick there, but of course it was harder to roll out, so I think it was smart to take on the kick shot. Missed a safety once early also where the ball overran. He left a long shot that KLEDIO knocked in. There hasn't been a whole lot.
No, there hasn't, but you did talk about that ball where he had to elevate and dig in while you and I just started talking about the U.S. Open. It was the 1. He overcut that and missed that, but that was incredibly tough. I don't even think credit goes to that there.
No, I mean, what it is, I think KLEDIO has 4 breaking runs, and besides game 2, I think that's the last time that Souto broken ran was tied at 1 apiece. So that right there makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's just another reason that I think this young man obviously doesn't take a rocket scientist, but I think he's going to just catapult to the top as this break is something special.
Well, that's what I mean. If it stays somewhat, you know, as it should, a more offensive game, which NineBall does usually at this level, he can certainly win events, even at this point right now, at 18 years old, I believe it is, and maybe 19.
Drawn back, trying to make the 2 here.
Just making sure, right? That's gonna be nice. That ball, if it would have hung that super deep, probably okay with the 3 near, but it can be tricky coming out of the pocket. All right, should come above the 4 here. No reason to settle. 5 goes by the 7, so happy days here for KLEDIO Kaci.
Yeah, very happy days. Very happy stroke. Very happy performance. I think it was tied up at 5 apiece, Double J, and it's been all the young man since then.
So, barring something that we don't anticipate seeing, it wouldn't be craziest thing ever, of course. 9-ball pool, we see tons of crazy, but we're going to lose the Spaniard, one of the Spaniards in the field, Mr. Souto.
Towel
There
has
it is,
been thrown, right?
Yeah, the towel's been thrown. Thanks for having me, Scott and Frank, and I'll certainly do more of it as we move along. I'll let you close it out, Scott.
I'm going to hold you to that, Double J. I've been chasing you around the building for about 3 days, but I know you're with Q-Tech and doing good stuff there. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. We will be back at 8 p.m. tonight. So tune in, share the stream. Talk to you soon.